In this town on Valentine's Day, everybody loses their heart.
It looks like Harry Warden's back in town.
In the town of Valentine Bluffs, there are many ways to die. Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Wars. Prepare for Prattle.
Choose a side in a Clone Wars.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Clone Wars, where two similar pieces of media clash to be crowned champion. Two go in, and only one comes out. And welcome to our Valentine's special. I hope you're feeling all lovey-dovey and warm, and people are showing you a lot of love. Because this podcast is probably not going to show at least one of these films some love. And we're going deep down into the dark recesses of the mind. And Harry Warden is there to bleed the lines. But don't worry, I've got a man I care for very much. He's a Dan of my heart. And he is here, and he's full of methane himself. It's Dan Burgess, and we're here to discuss and compare in another Clone Wars, My Bloody Valentine. Both versions, the original and the remake, and this is the first time out of all the Clone Wars we've ever done that we've done a remake and the original film. Welcome back to the show, Dan, and thank you for joining me this lovely Valentine's Day.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the roses. That's lovely. Could have done without them. You're putting them up my bum, but they're very nice otherwise.
That's the Valentine special. That's the Valentine special. You know what they say, every rose has its thorns.
Indeed. That's something else. It was all right going in. It was on the way out.
I'm giving you the shaft, anyway. Dan. I'm giving you the shaft straight away.
We started as we mean to go on.
Oh dear. So we're looking at these 80s slasher films. Dan, you're a big horror fan. Have you seen these before? And what was it like revisiting them?
Yeah, I've seen the classic, the 81 one of those films when I used to go to the video shop. I used to go to one of those VHS emporiums. It was bizarre because I always remember the trailer for it was on other videos, but the shop never got it. So I'd go in and ask for this film, and they'd be like, "Never heard of it, lad." So I'd see the trailer, and the trailer was like one of those typical 80s trailers, but the film looked great, and it was like, the iconic mask of the killer and all that stuff. And then I saw the cover, which was, again, another cool 80s art cover, but then I had to wait years to see the film. Whether it was worth that wait is another story entirely.
I will say Quentin Tarantino's favorite slasher film is the 1981 version.
That's funny you should say that, because it is like they told Tarantino, if Tarantino was making a horror film set on Valentine's Day, it's the kind of weird stuff he would make. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. And you go, yeah, that'll do.
We'll combine Valentine's Day with a mine. The two things that go very, very together.
Not enough feet in it for Tarantino, though.
Not enough bare feet, absolutely not. It's quite interesting, especially the original, and we'll talk about the remake as well. But it's almost kind of like it shouldn't work. It should, all of these very kind of serious love triangle, this working class kind of town slasher. They're not teenagers, they're kind of young adults. It's playing with a lot of the tropes of what a slasher film is, but then also delivering something a bit different.
You say that it's like young adults, they all act like teenagers. Another thing that was quite prominent in the 80s films is all the old people, or older people, looked absolutely fucking ancient. It was like young people, and then there was just fossils walking around. You know what I mean? Everyone wore suits and ties and stuff. It's like, oh, come on now, let's go now. It's like
they have names like
Mabel.
Mabel.
Yeah, the funniest thing in that film. Well, not the funniest, but Madame Mabel's laundrette.
Madame.
Yes, Madame, hello.
I guess
Come
maybe
quick on
because she
in there.
was unmarried, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. There's all kinds going on in that place.
Normally, I would list the reasons for comparison, Dan, as you well know, as we've done many times before. But I didn't bother this time because it's a remake of the original. There's the original and there's a remake, so there's going to be a lot of similarities as
Are
well.
they even both called the same thing?
Yeah, it's kind of. So My Bloody Valentine is called My Bloody Valentine, but My Bloody Valentine in the 2009 version is called My Bloody Valentine 3D. So,
Yes.
so
And I
taking.
watched it in 3D.
Oh, did you now? I don't have
did.
3D glasses or a 3D TV, so I watched the Blu-ray 2D edition.
I got the full hit. I took all those axes to the face.
Took all the
in the name of
pickaxes.
entertainment.
Well, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the 1981 version, filmed in Nova Scotia. Couldn't really be more of a Canucksploitation film, even if it tried. I'm sure they sold it like it was not Canadian, because they never really say, and that's what Canucksploitation used to do, because they would make more money if they could translate it to the US. But it's unavoidably Canadian.
It's got some Canadian facial hair in it, that's for sure.
Oh, Hollis, yeah, Hollis with a big tash. I think he's my favorite character, Hollis. I think
he's great.
Genuinely my favorite character.
Spoiler alert: is Death's the best one as well?
Yeah,
the best.
Did you watch the unrated version?
I don't know what version. I would hope I've seen the unrated version.
Yeah, did the quality change?
Drops on all the kills.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. You've seen the unrated one. That's the one I've got.
That kill is even now, I think, is one of the stands up like as proper. They just do that to him. For real, just to make it look real.
I love how the reloading of it, like a gun, like and all that. That was amazing. I thought, I agree with you. I think that's probably one of the best kills. But before we get into it, full whole hog down, do you want to give us a brief synopsis of this particular version of My Bloody Valentine?
It starts off with two miners in the most bizarre way in a mine shaft going down to where misters. And then there's some, one of them turns out to be a lady, and she takes off her outfit and fondles his pipe. He doesn't want to take his
strokes the old tubing of the mask very seductively.
Yeah, very. And then she's got a little heart tattoo, which fits in with the Valentine's type theme. And the man she's seducing has luckily put his pickaxe in the wall and impales her on it for absolutely no reason that is ever explained ever again.
This scene feels like a reshoot.
Yeah,
because
later on in the film, definitely.
We do find out later, a young woman, they describe, I've got a heart. They receive a heart. The mayor and the sheriff, the chief, receive a heart, and it explains that it's a young woman in her 30s. So it's implied that it is that woman, and that the killer, the miner, is doing that, and that happens prior to the beginning of the film. But we learn years prior, 20 years ago, that Harry Warden, a man who got trapped in an accident, a methane explosion down in the mine, because two of the managers were too busy going off to a Valentine's party to check the lines, to bleed the lines, to make sure none of those accidents were to occur. They get trapped down there. Harry Warden loses his mind and eats the rest of the miners, goes insane, is taken away to a mental hospital, escapes the mental hospital to come back on Valentine's Day again, like a year later, I think it is. And he kills the two people responsible for that mining accident.
And then he sends the hearts to the sheriff to say, on the mayor, to say, never hold a dance again, or I will be back.
Cancelled. Valentine's Day is cancelled. Not unlike Halloween in the Halloween movies eventually becomes. They're like, we're never having Halloween again. We can't celebrate it. But all the young people want to get horny and celebrate things. That's all they want to do. They want to celebrate these holidays.
But the film starts quite it's quite an upbeat, as you say, like an almost teenage rom-commy type thing. You know, they all come out of the mine at the beginning, all having shits and giggles. and then drive off in what can only be described as Dukes of Hazzard theme tune style. And it's like stuff going on like, yeah, it's mad, absolute batshit.
And the little
What's
TJ's got that little neckerchief he wears later on with his like denim jacket. This is like if Bruce Springsteen decided to make a slasher movie. He's like, it's gonna be all like working class, everyone's in pickup trucks and stuff. We're just gonna.
It's so Valentine. I mean, it's Valentine Bluffs, big Valentine's thing on, and they're saying, "Oh, we never mentioned Valentine's." What? It couldn't be more Valentine's if it tried.
They've got a big heart on the sign for the town and everything. But yeah, it's like in Friday the 13th they renamed Crystal Lake as like Forest Hills, I think.
Yeah,
it just is like, what's
the
point?
Fooling no one.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows.
So the town's been scared to have the Valentine's dance for 20 years, and then for some again unexplained reason they just go, yeah, fuck it, let's have the dance again. But don't make it too obvious that we're having the dance, even though there's bunting everywhere and it's advertised everywhere. And Mabel, the town lady, is clearly the person who's organising it all, because she would. Centre of the town, this ancient lady putting this trendy disco for all these youngsters, and they're all like made up. So they're all going to this new dance, and that's when like the barman in the bar, he's like the wise old like oracle fella who gives them the warning in rhyme, like an old pirate. I don't know why he does the rhyme. Oh, this town is a curse, I tell ye. And then starts telling them the tale of Harry Warden, and that's when we find out like what happened in the mine all those years ago. I was the man who found him, and then you see Harry Warden eating an arm.
Like, screaming.
His big mad face. Yeah. And then he only spent a year in a mental institute.
A year, only
and
a year.
That's just, if you think about it, you don't get enough mental institutes in films anymore.
No, I guess
Never
not.
hear of them. It's like quicksand.
Wait, we go again. Here we go again with quicksand. The 80s,
mental institutes,
the 1970s, 80s warnings about quicksand.
Yeah, you don't get none of that anymore. And you know what? The world's a worst off place for it.
I guess nowadays they're probably trying to be a bit more kind of measured and not be like mental health. People with mental health problems are the loonies, the crazies. Watch out for them. And it's never like an abandoned insane asylum anymore, or mental health hospital or anything. I guess that's probably they probably want to kind of avoid. Remind more films should be set in mines, which they did. They did actually film in a mine as well. It wasn't like a set or anything. It was a proper mine, and apparently the town, because they knew the film was being filmed there, they were like, "Oh, we best clean up the mine. Let's make it look." Nice, give it a bit of spackle, and make it look nice and tidy for them. The filmmakers come and they're like, no, we wanted it to look horrible. We wanted it as it was, dirty and horrible. You ruined it. But also, when they were down in the mine, they had to use special lighting equipment so they didn't set off the methane gas.
It's scary, isn't it? Because you don't want to actually make a Harry Warden.
What if somebody accidentally lit up a cigarette, or when they were using that pickaxe, maybe it sparked something, like in some of the other films. Yeah, that's like scary stuff, and that's just for a cheap slasher movie.
I know, it's bizarre, but it does add to the film. It looks legit. Like he looks massive.
Oh yeah,
the miner when he's in the mine, because he's like close to the top of the ceiling. Like.
It's a good look, I think, as slasher villains go as well. It's like
it's one of the best, I think. Still. He's like quite a popular horror character, isn't he? Even though he wasn't a franchise, it was just the one. It's such an iconic. Loads of people know him, even people who haven't seen the film. And of course, you've got the Necker, tiny terrors, Toonie Terrors figure, which is quite cool as well.
I got the Reanimator one of the tiny terrors, but for some reason he can't stand up. He doesn't stand up properly. I don't know why. It's just maybe his balance or something. It's just
plastic legs are just slightly off, aren't they? And that's it. Then you have to heat it up and cool it down in position.
Yeah, I think I didn't bother with that. I think I just chucked it in the end because I just couldn't. Every time I put him up, even with the stand, he would still fall over. So I was just like, fuck's sake, it's not worth it. Interesting. We had this love triangle that I mentioned between Axel, Sarah,
and
TJ. And
TJ's the mayor's son in this, isn't he?
he is, yes. In this one, he's the mayor's son, and
He's the dark-haired one,
yes,
and Axel's the blonde.
you've got it.
Which to throw you off in the remake.
Oh, spoilers!
Oh,
Spoilers.
sorry.
Ooh.
Oh no,
We don't know. We don't know things. Yeah, we are going to discuss spoilers. We already have. But yeah, so if you don't know who the killer is, if you've never seen these films, go and watch them. Come back and tell us which one you preferred, because that's what we're going to figure out. Anyway,
I haven't mentioned any of those were a killer.
No, I think it was Hollis who definitely killed himself, as you mentioned. He definitely killed himself. He's the one. He's the guy. Yes, we do have
all these unavoidable
deaths and yeah. Yes,
16 unavoidable suicides it was in this.
Spoilers, but yeah, Mabel put herself in that washing machine. That's what happened in that dryer. That's what she did. That was
dryer, definitely crispy fried dried.
It's like Final Destination. They're all just like, it must have been suicide. I don't know. Yeah. Or Nightmare on Elm Street, where she's up on the ceiling. It must have been suicide. It's fine. She did it to herself. But yeah, we
reached out and put the coins in.
Make sure I close the lid. Make sure I close the lid. Oh, let me get the lint out first. Let me get all the lint out. Close it. But yeah, we have this love triangle, which is again quite interesting for a slasher. You don't often get these kind of, where it's, they're playing with kind of, romantic elements and romantic, it almost feels like, I don't know, it kind of feels like those classic romantic literature, while still being a slasher film at the same time.
He went away, didn't he?
TJ, yeah, the mayor's son.
And when he comes back, his girlfriend's offered somewhere else. The age-old story,
as it always is. So Axel is now the boyfriend, and they both are working in the mine, and they're both having some issues dealing with this problem, and Sarah as well, because she doesn't know who she really wants to be with. It is fairly mysterious, the reasons he left and why he came back. It was just like the mayor's like, it's not my fault he couldn't make it in the big city in LA or California or wherever he goes, but he's back now and he's going to be working in the mine. He's my son, he's going to be working in the mine. And he is. But yeah, the first sign that something is wrong is that they, like you said, the mayor's like, oh, a box of chocolates, how lovely, someone's delivered this to me. And they each come with a little love note, and it's chocolate. Underneath the chocolate there is a human heart of that woman we mentioned earlier. Spoilers for the opening of the film. And there's a note saying, don't have the Valentine's dance again or I'm coming back. So the mayor and Sheriff Newby are trying to figure this out while keeping it under wraps. Very classic Jaws, let's not cause a panic on the 4th of July type thing. We'll have a panic on our hands.
And that moment that he opens the heart, which I think it's like a half a heart, isn't it? I think. Otherwise, he's done a good job squishing a whole heart into that tiny little box. But the scariest part of the film is that moment for me.
Really?
Because the reverse, that big jalopy, like typical cop car of the 80s, the sheriff's Jeep. You'll know the one. Even you just picture a sheriff's Jeep from an 80s movie, and that's it. They reverse it and speed off, and the scariest thing happens. This dog appears from nowhere and chases the car.
Yeah, it does.
And nearly gets run over about 4 times, which obviously isn't in the film. It was just like a local dog went out in that car.
Oh my God.
I was actually like, oh shit. With that car,
they're not going to leave
we're going to see this dog get
an actual dog die, get splattered. Yeah, Jesus, I forgot.
I'll leave that in. It's really good. It's the most nerve-wracking part of the film for me.
I think it reminds me of that bit in RoboCop, when they're driving past the camera, it's on the ground, it's during the big finale, and the hubcap comes off, and it just barely misses the camera, and they're like, we're fucking keeping that. It looks great, it looks amazing, but it's totally like, unpredictable. It wasn't supposed to happen, but yeah, it looks
proper good old size hubcap as well.
There are quite a few characters in this. I did like. I think we'll talk about the acting much later when we compare it between the films. But I think the charisma and the camaraderie and the chemistry between all the actors is really good. Like you
Yeah.
feel like these people have known each other for years, and that they're putting up
Yeah.
with all their, they're all kind of archetypes. There's a Joker, there's like the big burly guy in Hollis, and then you've got all these other kind of characters. There's one who's a bit edgy, he's got a beard, and then he shaves to stay away from the policeman because he's like, oh, he's gonna lock me up. There's all these different. You've got a tall guy, that's his thing. He's just tall.
Yeah,
He's just
it's
really,
tall.
really tall. And he picks up his girlfriend to kiss her, but by her head, and lifts her off the ground. And she must be like, I don't know, 5 foot something, and he's clearly at least 7 or 8 foot. And she just lifts her up by the skull, and I was like, that can't be good. That can't be like if she weighed any more than she does, that's gonna like damage her in some form. But that does reflect the way she gets killed in the film as well later on.
Yes, indeed.
Which I think is
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of hinting at that point because we don't necessarily know that it's going to be Axel or TJ, but we spend the most time with them. But it could be there's moments where it could be Harry Warden and he could have come back. There's potential that he may have.
Yeah, well, as soon as they find Mabel crispy fried, they basically get in touch with the mental institute, don't they?
Mm.
And they've got no Harry Warden's never been here kind of thing.
Yeah, they can't find his records. They've got no, they don't know if he's dead. They don't know if he's alive. They don't know if he was let out. They don't know if they've lost him. Yeah, so they're like, I love again that it's just a clerical error. Like, obviously, the reason that Harry Warden exists is them being dicks and walking off before they did their job properly. And then again, somebody hasn't been doing their job properly at the mental institution either. And they say they've got to go through the microfiche. Again, up-to-date topical references, microfiche, was a way for us to look at newspapers when we didn't have the internet. And yeah, so they're like, it's going to take days for us to get to that point. And the guy's like, days! The sheriff's like, days! That's really not good enough. Yeah, so...
But they're still having the party. But then again, they said, no, we have to stop the party out. I think that's why, they think Mabel killed herself, because he was pulling the party. So she put herself in a which is the Mabel death, the body that comes out of that dryer. The special effects on that are phenomenal as well. Again,
yeah, really good.
Because you wouldn't class this as it doesn't look like a big budget film. These are like some of the best like prosthetic makeupy type effects and stuff, and like that body is just like spot on.
Yeah, like you've got the blue. The eyes are like blue, like bright blue, and the face is good. It's all burnt up, really effective. Shame they fucking cut it all out for years, like so much so that in the remake, the stuff that wasn't in the original that was cut and apparently was lost at the time, they were like, well, let's do a version of that. Let's actually do that again. So they do the dryer death. They do a few other bits and pieces like the pickaxe into the under the chin moment where it goes through the mouth. Like that wasn't in the original either. That was cut. But then years later, they found that footage and were able to kind of splice it back in. Even though the version I have, the quality will drop. I think they did release one where they kind of matched it a bit better. I think that might be the Shout Factory release the Americans did. I think kind of balanced it a bit more. But I agree with you. I think the special effects are really good, really, really good.
Surprisingly true.
Yeah, and the hearts look good, and the chest cavities. The shower death I think is great as well. Like,
superb. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's phenomenal. And again, most of that was cut, but I think that's probably one of the most disturbing ones of the bunch.
I think as well with because it's of its time, the drop in quality isn't really that noticeable. It's noticeable that it does drop in quality, but you just assume, oh well, you used a different film reel that day or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that's how it filmed, so they just used the.
Yeah, there was some sort of problem with because that does happen in old films as well. There's like the quality drops, or they use a different camera, or the lighting isn't right, or the contrast, or whatever. That's
what it seems. So you kind of like you don't notice it as much. Whereas if like today, if that happens, you'd go, my God! Like if you watch like the special features on a DVD now, the cutscenes are noticeably crap quality compared to the film you watch because it's all digital and all that stuff. Whereas that was kind of like, oh, it fitted. It went a bit blue.
It went a little bit blue.
It still was all right. You know what I mean? It was cool.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I love the. It's fine. It's fine. Like I actually bought a Spanish Blu-ray to make sure I got the unrated version. The version I watched was on Netflix, and I think it was years ago now. So we're talking like, I don't know, 2012 maybe. So I think that was the cut version. But I still very much enjoyed it though. Still very good. But I'm glad that they managed to splice it back in. But yeah, so you were saying that Hollis's kill was your favorite. I don't think we managed to describe that.
No, so you got in total, if we're talking kills, there's I think 16 kills.
Jesus, you've been counting.
Well, I like to count the kills. So you've got the first kill is the strippy girl
who gets
impaled through both her hearts.
Yeah, her tattoo
it's like a target.
Right in the breast.
And I think is that maybe that's another scene that was cut because the quality drops there when it you see it coming through her chest.
You're right. I think when you see it come through was cut, and then when it's bleeding, it's cut. But I think where you pull away and she's screaming, that's when it wasn't cut.
Yeah, because it goes to the Rocky Horror Picture Show mouth scream, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So then you've got included in the kills, I suppose, is the 5 miners who get blown up, blown up and eaten. Is it really cannibalism because it's already cooked? I suppose.
Well,
I wonder if he actually
I thought
cut the bits off, or
I thought it was
blown off.
I thought they were alive, but then he killed them.
Maybe he did.
I know in the remake he killed them.
If he survived, I assume he survived.
Or maybe they were dead and he was just forced to eat them to survive.
Yeah, so then he's killed his 2 supervisors. Then he melts Mabel.
That's what you get in your Valentine's chocolate, melted Mabel.
Melted Mabel. That's in that new version of Wonka. Then the weirdest kill is that bartender.
Yeah, Happy or Hap or something, I believe he's called.
He to put them off because they're assholes. There's one bit he looks at the camera and goes, "Assholes." We get them all laughing at him because he's warning them off having the party. So to scare them in the most random thing ever, it's like it's obviously him, but from him in the bar to him outside, he looks like a totally different person. He's dressed as a miner, which I just didn't understand at all. Because I think at first you see his feet, and I think you meant to think it's Harry Warden again, but then and it goes up from his feet, and it's all miner gear, but then it's him, and you're like,
yeah, and he's drinking.
He's a barman. Yeah, he's a drunk, and now he's drunk and dressed as the miner. But he's not going to jump out and scare them. He's actually creating like a scarecrow miner in the room. So when they open the door, this like fake miner's arm comes up and stuff in there, and he opens the door 4 times and just pisses himself laughing. And it must be it's a good like 5-minute scene in the film where he's just opening this door, going, "Oh my god!" He keeps on opening this fucking door, and his arm pickaxe swings out, and he goes. So then he's like pissed. He walks away, and then he goes, "Oh, it's too good. This I'm gonna have to go and have one last look." For good luck, like walks back and opens it, and obviously it's the real Harry Warden who fucking takes him out. Nice. This is the chin kill. So
that's it.
Come back to this. So basically the pickaxe goes right up through his chin and takes his eye out as well. It's again really nice. It's really so well. It's proper 70s style. Like
like gore and stuff, very. But you see it also. I think you see the blade go in his mouth as he's got his mouth open.
Through. So you can see it. You can see it right through. You can see it's right through in his eye, and his left eye is like popped on the end of it as well.
Yeah,
so you see the whole length of that pickaxe. Oh,
yeah, I'm with you on that scene. It was just one too many. For me, it was like it needs to be the rule of 3. He does it once. Ha 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 ha. He goes back, oh, let's see that again. Yeah, it's gonna. Then he goes, well, actually, maybe one more time. Then it should have been Harry Warden with the pickaxe. That's they do it. Just it's just a little too long for me. That just need to do that, and it needed to be a bit quicker as well.
Fucking weird. It was the whole like a little Prospector Pete. Oh yeah, this is the funniest shit I ever seen.
It's very much like The Fog. Or with the story at the start, or Friday the 13th Part 2 with the urban legend thing. But I was going to say with the urban legend thing, I think when we were talking about My Soul to Take, we were like, it takes longer than that to create like an urban myth. And like this is only 20 years, and all the kids are like, Harry Warden never existed, and it's it's a myth.
It's it's a fact. It's a news story.
Yeah.
and all the kids and they're not even kids. They're
No,
all
25
they were probably
at
all
least.
adults when it happened,
Mm.
and they're all like, "I know this shit." I think, no, for a start off, one of your dad's mates got killed for a
Yeah,
start.
yeah. Like you would know that, you
Like
would
you all need
remember
to tell.
that, or
Yeah.
the child would mention that maybe on the playground. My dad died today.
Yeah.
You know,
The fact you all work in the mine where all these people died and you don't know, you don't
there's no
believe the
record of
story.
him. There's no,
Yeah.
like I get
0 days since the last actions in this man. 0 days since the last slaughter of innocents in this mine.
I will say this as well. I think the cinematography is excellent. I think it's really really atmospheric, especially in the mine.
It reminds me a lot of First Blood.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
I feel that really,
possibly because of the setting
vibe.
and First Blood. There's a mine bit in that, but the whole like all the angles and how it's shot and stuff is very reminiscent of.
No, I agree. There's definitely something that I covered it a few years ago with Andy on his channel, Angry Andy Reviews. But yeah, I have to agree with you. Yeah, there's something there's something there. Again, early kind of 80s. There's something about that style, or maybe the directors went to the same film school. Who knows? Or what? Maybe they were just influenced.
Just want to remember the reason you mentioned Tarantino before. Clicked something in my head, but not quite what it should have. I'm very old. Well, you have to remember this.
You and your up-to-date topical references.
Well, this is an up to. It's this. Well, Tarantino is fairly up to date, but I thought of this as if Tarantino was asked to make a Scooby-Doo movie.
Okay.
If you think about it, everything in this film is pure Scooby-Doo, where they're just going to rip the mask off the killer at the end.
I actually think there might be a Scooby-Doo villain who was called the Miner as well. I'm pretty sure there was one of those original ones. It was probably set in a mine.
Tarantino's meant to be making a horror film, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or that was the last film was going to be a horror. I reckon that's what we're in. I reckon a remake.
My Bloody Valentine.
It'll remake the remake of My Bloody Valentine, but it'll just be Scooby-Doo. At the end, it'll be it was Old Man Johnson, and it's the barman.
It's the Old Man Johnson. I'm gonna Google the Miner Scooby-Doo because I'm almost certain there's. Yeah, there we are. Miner 49er. Miner 49er was the Scooby-Doo villain who was a miner. I knew it. I knew there was one.
That had to be, didn't it?
I wanted to talk about the tragedy of Mabel as well. Like she's this lovely lady. She wants all this lovey-dovey stuff. She's got a committee.
She's well into the mayor.
Yeah, well into the mayor. But actually, she's more into the detective because the detective keeps getting these, and the mayor keeps getting these heart-shaped boxes with a heart in and with a note. He gets one and he's like, oh shit, here's another one. Yeah. Is it going to be a heart?
Is this you?
Yeah, and it's like, but he gets one, and Sheriff opens it because he's got a series of these now. He's like, another one's dead. There's another little rhyme in there. I do quite like the little rhymes they have and the little things. And again, it kind of goes along with the bartender and his.
Yeah, but I think that you're meant to think the bartender's got something to do with it, aren't you? Until his laughing fit takes him out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I like that though, and this is something about this is nobody was told who the killer was when they were filming. Like nobody knew, not even the people that were playing the killer or the person that was playing the killer knew that they were gonna turn out to be the killer. So again, it could be Harry Warden, it could be Hap, it could be various other characters are kind of labeled. Like Hollis is shown to be quite strong and like can hold two men at the same time. There's various other kind of little things like okay, and like some people are more like cowardly maybe, or disappear all of a sudden and come back. Yeah. And again, like we said, the tall guy is implied to be the killer because he's grabbing her by the head and putting her on the shower spike, and the water comes shooting out of her mouth. So there's a lot of kind of red herrings, but it's done in a great way. It's done in the best possible way where you still don't have an idea definitely who it is.
Because all the kills fit. So you get someone who gets the head boiled.
Oh, the hot dogs, the delicious hot dogs.
The head into hot dogs. You've got the girl. Basically, she gets lifted up like the kiss and put onto the water pipe in the shower, basically the shower head. So it's coming out of her mouth. So she then becomes the showerhead, and she's just hanging there with the water pumping out of her mouth. But then her boyfriend comes in, doesn't he, to that, and finds her there. Like, you get those two killed by the massive big core drill. But I think you don't see them get killed, do you?
No.
They're just in the room, and
That's right.
there they are with the big drill through.
Yeah, because they decide to go off. Well, yeah, that's very Friday the 13th, isn't it? Like in that one, in Friday the 13th Part 2, they get speared together, which again is very Bay of Blood as well. And then in this one, it's the same, but with a big fuck off drill.
Big drill.
She was getting drilled, and then they both got drilled.
Indeed, they both enjoyed the drill. And then you get the nail gun.
Oh yeah,
which is
describe that to us, Dan.
Well, it's basically as you'd imagine it. It's someone just getting absolutely fucked up by someone with a nail gun, right in the head, right in the face. Someone just fire. I mean, I won't use a nail gun. I think mainly because I've seen so many films where, and I know that they can actually hit something in the wood and bounce out and go right through your face. You know, you've seen that many things where people, not horror films, but like people post the here's an X-ray of my face after a nail gun fired its nail backwards into my mouth. You know, no, I'm not gonna. And to see this just go chunk and it's just going ping right into his head. And then he's like puts his hand up to protect himself and stuff, and it's like it's just fucking wrong. But it's so. I don't think any of the kills in this are bloody either. There's not like a gushing of like that. Like at the beginning of the film, when Mabel and the mayor, I think it's the mayor, are going into the dance place, the first thing that happens is a lad comes out with all blood, but it's red paint on his head, like, and that kind of is the effect that you used to get, which is just basically red. It looked like red paint for blood, and so the kills in it, there isn't really that much blood in them. It's just mainly the visceral. Oh Jesus, you know what I mean? It's not like a big splatter of blood or anything. And I think in that scene it makes it worse.
Yeah, I think it's edited really well. It gives you that like, oh fucking hell, oof, oh. You know, but it doesn't linger. It's not gratuitous. It's not like, you know, even when the girl at the start, you know, she's getting her boobies out and stuff and undressing and stuff, and that could have been really gratuitous, but it doesn't last very long. They play the sexual thing and then
keeps a bra on.
Yeah, sorry, does keep a bra on. No nudity in this. But then when she's killed, it's quite quick, sudden, and it's the editing that does it. It makes you think. It makes you think you've seen more and that the shot's lingered longer than it has. But no, it's really clever. It's very much it's like the Psycho thing. It's what you don't see. It's the short, sharp shock of seeing those bits of violence. But it's not like he's walking around going, "Oh, I've got a nail in my head."
Yeah, blood squirting. But he does get up though, and he goes, "I'm like, oh, fuck this, I'm getting out of here." And
he's like,
I just took a nail to the face, mate.
But this is why I think they do that. Is because Hollis has shown earlier manhandling both of the suspects, let's say, at the same time, and I think that's why they go and use the nail gun, because they know that he could be a physical threat.
And you get a chance to.
Yeah. Everyone else is kind of like they're thrown down a mine shaft, or they get him in the gut with a pickaxe, or. But yeah, going back to Mabel. I think you feel sorry for Hollis more. Yeah.
Than any of the other
because you like Hollis, because he's a stand-up guy. He's nice. He's polite. He doesn't want people fighting. He breaks up all the fights. He's friendly to both Axel and TJ. You know, he doesn't dislike either of them. You know, he has a loving girlfriend who clearly loves him very much. He doesn't want to go down the mine because of the safety issues, but he gets convinced. He's like, all right then. I'll be honest. All of these people are alcoholics as well. By the way, like every single one of them.
Of course.
I think the real tragedy of the film is that Mabel's killed, and then the sheriff gets this heart, thinks it's from the killer, thinks it's going to be another human heart, but actually it's a Valentine's from Mabel to the sheriff, to the chief, and he's like, because he's partially pleased, but then he's like, oh no, it actually was from Mabel, and that's quite sweet and like bittersweet, which I don't think is something you would necessarily get in these kind of slasher films at the time. You wouldn't get something that was so like bleak and tragic like that.
Yeah, and literally story based.
Exactly.
I mean, once the killing starts, they don't normally bother. The story goes out the window, doesn't it? Completely, really. In most.
Yeah, I think.
In this, it doesn't. Be
Yeah, like, I think it builds the characters' relationships really well. Like TJ goes off with Sarah, and his friendship with Axel slowly deteriorates when he goes off, and he has that moment with Sarah, and I think she's great in this as well. Like she's really struggling with balancing. It's really good at getting across the ideas and the feelings of the character in a nice kind of genuine and not stagey way. It's just like these are the people. Here's everybody. He's the Joker. He's this. He's that. Here's all the archetypes. But there is a lot of depth there, and there's a lot of complexity of the emotions and the feelings. Like,
and all that is done in one shower scene and the Dukes of Hazzard moment.
That's it.
I mentioned
that's
earlier.
it. That's it. Yeah,
that's it's done. Yeah, that's all you need.
You've established everything you need to know about these minor characters. Not minor as in small or little, but they are minors. That happens in one scene and you get it. You go, right, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy, he's this guy. And then we meet the girlfriends and we go, okay, that's they've coupled up. They've not quite coupled up. She's in the middle between these two. Like we get everything we need to know, but again, done in the best possible way to establish the relationships and also that they're genuine people and that we care about them and we're interested. They're having fun, they're joking, but we care about what's going on. And like the awkward moments where like somebody will mention TJ not being with Sarah anymore or Axel, all that kind of tension is there as well, and it just feels really natural. And again, for a slasher at this time, you don't really often get that. There's layers here where you wouldn't have them in other films, or they would want to just get on to the killing and get on with this. But there is a lot to set up. There's the past and everything. And again, the urban legend thing doesn't quite work for me, but it's still there. It works in a way, but it doesn't work like if you think about it too much. So before we go on to the new one, was there anything else you wanted to say about this one?
No, I just think for the time, and as you say, for the cinematography and everything on it. I mean, there's one thing I don't like about it, which is the Halloween 5 clown caper copper type music that hits every now and again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it had that. It seemed to like me to pop in a bit of fun and like lighten the mood by just having like ridiculously happy music all of a sudden.
Yeah, or the bit where he's like, I don't mind the bits where they cut the tension a bit, like where they're like he's telling Haps in the bar telling the story, and then I think not Hollis
from behind under the bar.
Yeah, the Joker character's just like, and he's like blowing the horn, and they're making jokes. I don't mind the humor that feels natural. Like there's a bit where they go down into the mine, so the dance gets cancelled by the mayor and the chief, because they're like, Harry Warden's going to keep killing, so let's take down all the decorations. Let's just stop it right now. And they rearrange the party to happen at the mine. And some people decide to go down into the mine. And like Hollis and the Joker character, I can't remember his name, but they're like, oh, let's do we need any gear before we go down? Do we need any mining gear? And he's like, yeah, grab a 6-pack.
Yeah.
I was like, brilliant, great stuff. But yeah, really, really, really works. But we end the film with Sarah goes down with the mine with all the other people. They get killed. They try and escape. Axel and TJ go down because they know someone's in the mine, so they go down together. They put their differences aside and they're like, we've got to save Sarah and everybody else who's down there. And while we're in there, it's a big kind of maze. People are getting killed left and right in all different locations. Again, there's a lot of that slasher magic going on. Like you can get in and out of costume, be in multiple places at once. But I was kind of like, it's kind of the same with all the slashers anyway. So I forgive that. We think one of them gets away, the Joker gets away, but then he like falls down the shaft very violently.
Yeah, like he's hung, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's hung, and then his
head pop off.
His head pops off. Yeah. And again, I think that is another one where it's like cut as well, like the quality drops, because it was just like I think it happened, the head comes off, but I think it cuts. It should cut there, but then in the uncut version, you see the body hit the ground. And it's just like like blood squirting out of it. And then we find out that they get separated. It looks like Axel falls down in some water and drowns seemingly. And then we learn the miners coming for them. They've got that epic mine chase in the mine cart thing. Not quite as good as Indiana Jones, but it'll do. But at least it's real. It's a real mine cart. It's a real thing.
Indeed.
And then we learn they go into. I think they go into the area where the explosion originally happened that trapped Harry, and the miners chasing TJ and Sarah, and they manage to trap the miner in there. He knocks over a building, a strut, like a holding up the mine, and it traps him in there. And then the cop comes down, and the cop stops, and like the mine cart's coming up, and he like puts his hand on it, looks at some blood, and is like, "Oh, blood!" And everyone else is still running down. I was like, "Why you stop just to do that? Just go." Oh, blood. I'm like, get fucking down there. Everyone else is getting down there.
I don't like blood.
He just goes, oh no, not again, not again. So they run down there, and Axel is actually still alive. He's revealed he's the miner. And we also get the flashback showing that he was there when Harry Warden killed his dad and literally cut his heart out.
It goes back to the two supervisors, and he was one of the supervisors' kids.
Correct. But he's still alive, and they try and get him out. And then TJ and Sarah are running away, but they hear he's alive, and they come back. And then he's like, be my bloody Valentine, Sarah. I'll come back for you. Harry's with me.
So she goes over and holds his hand, as you would.
She would.
But it's not. It's torn off at the elbow. Oh.
Yeah, and in the uncut version, you see him cutting at his own arm, cutting it off, and then he runs off. Runs off maniacally laughing into the mine, like and that's where the film ends, and we get the wonderful. I think the song is brilliant. The Ballad of Harry Warden, which is kind of this folksy, like once upon a time on St. Valentine, there's a place called Henniger Mine. I just fucking love it. I think it's an absolute banger. It was never been officially released either, the song, even though people have demanded it. The soundtrack, it's never been officially released. You can find it on YouTube, and maybe at the end of this podcast, Dan, as well. I might just play it for everybody. So if you ever need to listen to it, just play my podcast again. I'd really appreciate if you did that. But yeah.
Hashtag the Ballad of Harry Warden.
Hashtag the Ballad of Harry Warden. But yeah, the guy, it's this whole soundtrack and stuff. The guy didn't even I don't think he was even credited as singing it. I think it was just something they kind of threw together. But apparently the production company wanted like a hit, like a song that they could be like, oh, right, this is the next big hit, apparently. Because that's what slasher films were doing at the time, making really good songs. Sure. Whatever. I'm not sure the reasons, but the director did want to make a follow-up, but it never really manifested. I think it's George Michaela, and it never quite happened. There's been a short film called Valentine Bluffs that was released, like a fan film, which I think follows up a little bit on that. But then we got our remake in 2009, so it was the year of remakes, horror remakes. We got Friday the 13th with one half of the two boys from Supernatural, and then the other boy from Supernatural was in this remake. The plot for this is exactly the same, pretty much.
Yeah, same plot but different.
Yeah. That's how I would describe it too. So we open with this 3D. They go straight in with the 3D element. They've got these got a voiceover, and they've got these newspaper clippings of
you're flying through the pages.
Yeah, it's like in between the text and everything. It's like
it's really nicely done in 3D. It looks great.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about some of my misgivings with it, but we'll get into that. So we have this, and Tom, or TJ from the original, that character, has accidentally not bled the lines of the methane and caused an explosion, which has trapped several miners. And he admits to the mistake. He's like, I'm so sorry. His dad, again, is the owner of the mine. He's not the mayor, but his dad is the owner of the mine in this one. And he admits to it, and miners are trapped. They try and get them out, but Harry Warden, again, is in there. Doesn't particularly like the kid working for the mine because he's a bit of a dickhead. And he's like, in this version, to save oxygen, Harry kills the rest of the miners. So then when they pull him out, he's again taken to a mental institution, and again a few years later, I think again it's a year later, he's released, and there's some kids partying. So we've got Axel, Sarah, and Tom.
He's not released.
No, he escapes.
Kills
sorry,
everyone in the hospital.
Yes, sorry.
In the most 3D fashion possible.
Do they shoot him and then he's in a coma and then he escapes the hospital?
Yeah, so basically, it's the party, isn't it, straight away?
Yeah. So let's say it's a year ago. He's in a coma. He then wakes up, remembers what happens, and wants revenge on Tom. And he absolutely butchers the hospital and its staff. Like I was like, fuck me, like because you don't see it, you just see the aftermath, and it is just a massacre.
The kids are at a party, aren't they, at the beginning? Sorry, so they have that. Like on the other one, they all work in the mine.
Yeah.
So you can understand
sense
why they're having a party in that area.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like somewhere the kids just go and hang out in Tunnel 5 or whatever it is. And it's like it's the cool place to go and party and stuff.
And also Axel is there, but he doesn't work in the mine. He's not associated with the mine in any way. No. He's just another guy. Tom goes there, but this is after the tragedy of him trapping the miners.
So he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be there. He's with Sarah, doesn't want to be there.
Straight away, Harry Warden, the miner.
Yeah, real Harry Warden.
Kills Michael and Jason. The first two kills.
Of course,
the first two kills, isn't it? Are Michael and Jason, which is, quite a little
Another fun fact, in both films, the Valentine's Day party's on Saturday the 14th, which means the day before is Friday the 13th. Even though there is no Valentine's party really in this one, but they play down the Valentine's aspect in this one quite a fair bit. I think. Also, the town isn't called Valentine Bluffs; it's called Harmony. So I was like, okay,
it's just bizarre. It was almost like they couldn't get the rights to record.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a possibility. There might be maybe some issues, but yeah, Harry Warden turns up, kills everybody before we've even had a chance to get to know anybody. Everyone's dying. There's a moment as well where they're hiding, and he walks directly past them.
It's done very much like it feels very 90s in the way it's shot as well. But even like the credits and everything are like it feels like a 90s pop video style.
Yeah,
that's the best way to describe it.
It feels like there should be some like metal music underneath it or something.
Yeah, and everything's done like fast MTV cut style. So as soon as you're in, you get the story. And people are dying straight away. Whereas in the first one, it's like nothing happens for
we build up to it.
It builds character and stuff.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
One's just straight in. Look, everyone's dead.
Again, we don't know who Sarah is. We don't really know who Tom is. We know that there's the tragedy in the mine. We don't know who Axel is. We don't know who his girlfriend is. Everyone just starts dying.
And nor do we care.
No, exactly. Don't get me wrong. The kills are good. I think. There's a mix of CG and there's a mix of practical effects, and I think they work really, really well. But it's something that I'm just like, oh, okay, because this random blonde girl comes in and she gets a shovel in the face, but we literally don't know her name and we don't know who she is. We don't know her relationship to anybody. She just comes in and gets a shovel to the face. That is it.
So you get first off, is it Michael or Jason? Yeah, so Jason first, he gets the pickaxe straight to the back of the head and his eye pops out because it's 3D, so they had to, didn't it? So his eyes sticking in the screen. CG, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you've got just like 3 random teenagers dead. And then you get the spade to the mouth, which is a great kill.
Yeah.
So her head's basically dissected. She's stuck on a pole. So her bottom half, and then the face slides down the spade towards the camera.
Yeah. Stabs her initially, pins her up against the wall, and then he hammers it in the spade, and then the head slides down the spade, and the body falls down. Again, glorious, but again, I don't know and don't really care for that person because I don't know who they are. Now, there's a bit where another kid comes down, and he's like, "Where is everyone? What are you doing? Stop messing around!" And Harry is clearly there. And he can't see him.
They've just hidden, haven't they? The 3 of them.
And he's walked past them, but if he turned around, he would see them.
He'd see them, yeah.
However, when that kid comes down,
Jason gives it away.
Yeah, so Jason comes in and he's like, and they see him and they're like, be quiet. Look, it's Harry Warden.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And then when Harry Warden turns around, he should literally see them all.
See everyone.
Hiding, but they don't for some reason. He can't see them. Might be the mask, I don't know. Might be the lighting. Maybe they're pretending it's a darker mine than it is. I don't know.
Well, maybe he just wants to take this kid out because he runs off, doesn't he, and twats himself in the head on a beam. And
That's
it's on
right.
the floor. So
That's
maybe
right.
he just thinks he's the easier kill.
Yeah,
Oh no,
maybe.
it's Michael. It's Michael who this kid because he shouts
Okay.
Jason, doesn't he?
Right.
He
Yeah.
shouts,
Yeah.
Jason, Jason, and then Jason,
Mm.
but it's not Jason, it's Harry.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And same different mask.
And then they manage to kind of escape. I think Sarah manages to hit him or knock him out or something. And then so Axel, his girlfriend, who I can't remember her character's name, and Sarah all escape. And Tom is there. I can't remember what happens to Tom. I think
he comes back in it, and then he gets knocked about, doesn't he?
He gets knocked
So
about.
They all run back to the car.
And then you get that wonderful like 3D shot of him throwing the pickaxe, which was like used in every trailer, and it goes into the car windscreen and sticks there just in front of Sarah,
just in front of her eye, because she sat that far forward in her seat.
She moves forward as well. She moves closer to it. She's like,
it's as if she wants to get out of that town by getting killed.
Yeah, she's like, fuck this. Fuck this.
And then they go, yeah, Tom, sorry, lad, you're on your own, and get off without him. Yeah, so he runs back into the mine, as you would.
As you would. But and then he's knocked out he's knocked down by Harry, and he runs into the mine to escape him. And then Tom Atkins, the legend that is Tom Atkins, turns up and shoots
Sheriff Burke.
And shoots him dead with the elderliest cops I've ever seen in my life.
The oldest. Oh my god! How old is his mate?
So old. They're older. They are older than the people in the first film who look ancient.
That's one of the few things in this film that is totally unrealistic.
But I do like Tom Atkins being here.
Tom Atkins is great. And he's the sheriff. So the sheriff would be an older man usually anyway.
Sure.
You can get away with. And he doesn't look old.
No.
But his deputy, the young buck deputy, is 165 years of age if he's a day.
He's the old miner prospector type. Like he is absolutely that archetype.
He's probably like he's being dug up.
He's the crypt keeper. Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, no offense to him, like fuck me, he's ancient. And then the rest of the film's 10 years later, which is the most unbelievable part of the film for me, is that he's still alive.
Nobody has aged a day.
There's no way he would even be alive. He'd be at least 100.
And that's that. I will say, like again, that's kind of that aspect of the timeline is unrealistic. But they do say we're too old. We should have retired. And then after that, they do retire. 10 years later, they have both retired. And there's a great line later where they're investigating him, and the female deputy are in modern day are checking in this house, Axel's house, for the killer, for the miner. And the female deputy goes, do you want to take point? And he goes, I'm retired. It's like, you go in first, you crazy bitch. You go in. If you want to get fucking killed, you go in. I'm not getting paid for this shit anymore. Which again, another bit of humor I quite enjoyed. But I will say, I like that they get rid of the urban myth thing. I think that is a benefit in this one, and it's supposed that Harry disappeared, but it's also implied that he was killed in a vigilante style justice by the mayor and Tom Atkins' character and somebody else. And the guy who's playing the mayor is the owner of the bar in Roadhouse.
Yeah, it's mad.
And I thought he was old. I thought he was old in that. So
yeah, what's his name? Kevin Teague, is it?
Yeah, I think so. And he's good. He's good in.
He's
this.
one of them actors he's been in everything, hasn't he? Yeah. Like another 40,000 or something.
Yeah. And I do like him in this. I like that he's like criticizing Axel, because Axel has grown up to become the sheriff, the cop, the chief. Yeah. Which again, I can understand why they did it, because it kind of cuts down on the amount of characters, but it kind of also doesn't, because you've still got Tom Atkins who's playing the kind of sheriff newbie character in a way. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I guess the mayor is not. Yeah,
Tom Atkins is more the sheriff than the sheriff.
Yeah,
he does more work.
But in this one,
walks around with a big magnum.
Yeah, he does. But in this one, I kind of it distances Axel from the mine for me, because like, why would he dress as the miner? Again, we're going to go into spoilers for this film as well, so be aware.
And it never explains Like Tom's come back after 10 years.
He does,
being
yeah.
away. You just think he's gone away from the place because
he's traumatized, isn't he?
He's the mine owner's son, isn't he?
Yeah, he's traumatized.
He's blamed for not venting the methane.
Yeah.
So he's got off. But he comes back and he's going to sell the mine. And there's no real, other than I'm selling the mine because my dad's dead, there's no real reason given. Other than, he just wants to get rid of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. But there is a reason. Like in the previous film, we didn't get a reason. He just came back. He just didn't make it in California, so he's going to be working down in the mine. It's my son. He's been working in the mine. You know,
the difference in this is spoiler, but he wasn't the killer in that one.
True. But
I guess
the
same manner as this he is in this one, because this takes a slightly more supernatural.
Yeah, a little bit. I was going to say that. Yeah, there's a sense that maybe Harry has possessed him, or the spirit of Harry has possessed him. So there wasn't as much kind of behind the scenes stuff on IMDb for this film. Most of it is on the full frontal nude scene that Axel's girlfriend has in the film.
Which is, might I say, fantastic.
Why are you saying that? Dan?
Because it's an absolutely great scene, and she plays it. This is going to sound really bizarre, but she plays the whole scene like she's clothed.
Absolutely.
So
but
there's no, it's not a gratuitous tits and ass. It's like horror thing, you know, where it's just like, and the character that's not been in it yet, I've just appeared. I'm shagging this fella. Hey, look at these boobs. It's done. She's properly acting, like, in my opinion, quite well for the whole scene. It's quite it's like a good 5 minutes, isn't it, where she's just
she's totally nude. So the scene itself, I think you're right, it's not sexualized, it's not gratuitous.
And of course, funnily enough, you'd be surprised to hear that Trucker Frank is Todd Farmer. He happens to be the writer and everything, like, you know, written this. He is lukewarm Steve Austin, I call him, because he's a pound shop stone cold. He is like, he's like, you know, the wilderness. Stone cold Steve Austin of the wilderness.
Oh dear,
his wilderness years.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, apparently he had to get permission from his wife to do it. But
it's in the credits.
But then I was like, that's weird. Like, that's a little weird. Like, in today's day and age, I don't think that would happen, really. But again, in a sleazy, trashy slasher movie from 2009, I guess it was probably fine. The actress seemed very comfortable. She said that initially she was nude, but then when she was going to go out to the truck, out of the motel, she was going to have a towel on or something to cover up, her lower half. But she said, no, it feels wrong. It feels weird. It doesn't feel right for the character. It doesn't feel comfortable. I'm happy to just do the scene.
I think it made the scene the way she did go out. Like, she was just a badass. Like, she was like, he basically just called her a prostitute.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work out. She's the blonde girl who's mates with Axel and TJ, isn't she?
Yeah. So in the opening,
Tom, sorry, not TJ.
Yeah, in the opening sequence, she's going out with Axel at that point.
So suddenly she's like just a random character kind of thing. So she becomes like someone you'd assume is going to be one of the main characters to just this bit part who's picking up truckers in a motel by the looks of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how it's.
And she is like she's she's happy with her body. She's comfortable with the body. She's comfortable having sex with this random dude. You know, and she's talking about how Valentine's was kind of like a creepy, holiday anyway, initially for the Catholics, and having secret love affairs and that you would sleep with throughout the year. But then also, like, the second she finds out she's being filmed secretly by this fucking creep, she's like, you're a fucking cunt. I'm not a prosy. And he's like, yes, you are a prosy. Here's, you're a prostitute. Here's some money. Get fucked.
Much like in the original where the characters built themselves to all be likable. He does build himself to be absolutely fucking hateable immediately.
Despicable, yeah. And you're like,
in a few seconds.
And then when he does die, you're like, good. Fucking good.
In a really good way as well.
Yeah, like really gets it. So yeah, and just before this, we see Tom come into town. He's had the meeting with the mayor. The mayor's like, people are going to hate you because you're killing the lifeblood of this town. This is the reason we have this the mine is everything. This is families. This is the income. You close this, you sell it. Who knows what they're going to do? And he's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Whatever. People hate me here anyway, so it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just, I'm here. We're going to do it tomorrow. And then he bumps into Sarah, played by Jamie King, who is in another remake that I talked about with our friend Ben Crampton. We talked about Silent Night, which was a remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and she plays the lead cop in that, which I think is not a bad remake either in its own right, as horror remakes go. I think it's a very loose remake, but I quite enjoyed that one. And again, it kind of avoids a lot of the kind of trashier elements, but still has trashier elements like a nude woman going into a wood chipper. So you still have things like that going on. You still have the classic slasher elements, but it does play around with it a little bit more. She bumps into Tom and they get talking. And I love that Axel describes the town as an inbred mining town. No, that was it. The mayor says, you're making us look, because he's on TV and the reporters are like, it's been 10 years since these killings. What do you think? And he's like, get fucked, you media fucking creeps. And then he's like, right, great job, Sheriff. You made us look like an inbred mining town. And he goes, we are an inbred mining town. But yeah, and from the start, we are made to hate Axel, like more so than in the original. Even more so, we're like, he's cheating on his wife. He's a piece of shit. He's a lazy cop. He doesn't care. And Tom comes in. He's clearly still traumatized by the events of the mining accident and the killing of Harry Warden. He's taking pills and, he doesn't want to be there particularly. And Sarah's like, you need to confront your trauma. You need to deal with it instead of running away from it. And I thought that was a really interesting way of keeping him in the town, like him going, actually, I'm going to go into the mine and I'm going to face it. I'm going to confront my fear and confront my problems, head on. And then he kind of falls back in love with her, and then more killings occur. He sees Harry Warden, and Harry Warden comes back, kills a guy he fought in the bar because that old man attacks him. It's like, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. I guess he's our crazy Ralph, isn't he, from Friday the 13th? Like the bartender in the first one. He's you've caused all this. We're doomed. We're all doomed. Yeah. That whole thing. So yeah, and Tom Atkins saves him, and he partially beats up this other guy who is then taking him down the mine. And the mine scene, the mine is, again, it's a real mine that they filmed him in this one as well, but they very rarely use it in this one. Like they're barely in the mine at all. But it is a lot more cramped and a lot more like, it feels, I don't know, in some ways it feels more realistic as a mine, but also it kind of also feels a bit like a set anyway. It's weird.
Yeah, it feels like a set more than the first one.
Yeah.
And they throw some of the things from the first one in pointlessly. Like the hanging clothes dropping down and all that stuff.
Yeah. And we talked about
had a point in the first one.
But in this one, it was kind of just like, oh.
Yeah,
but then
no one works in the mine or anything.
No, but even in the first one, like the miner, it made sense for the miner to be, I mean, obviously he goes to different areas, goes to the laundrette, goes to the party, goes to various other places, but it kind of made more sense because he was at least near the mine. Like he was around the mine. Like in this one, it's like he's in a shop, he's in a supermarket. It's kind of like, I was like, is this
it's more slasher of the times, like slasher movie type where he's anywhere. A bit more like Scream-esque, isn't it? This one.
In some ways, I feel like they had less money for this one. In some ways,
yeah, I think he spent a lot because he filmed it in 3D, didn't he? So I think
yeah, they did.
Probably a lot of it went on.
At least it wasn't one of those conversions where it's filmed in 2D, but they're like, oh, we've got to convert it into 3D to make money off it. Like
the 3D is actually effective, but also overdone as well.
It did feel like Friday the 13th Part 3 a few times. I'm like, maybe we don't need the log coming through the tree. Maybe we don't need him punching the mirror. There's certain bits where I'm like, but I guess 3D is for me, it's a real fine line to tread, I think. Like you can quite easily do too little, but you can also quite easily do too much.
3D, for me, is my wife always laughs at me because every time we watch a 3D film, I go, ooh, look at the depth. I don't like stuff coming towards the camera.
Stop telling us about your Valentine's evening, Dan, and what you get up to.
Oh, feel the depth. I'm going to dress as a miner. Oh God, that sounds wrong, doesn't it? I'm going to dress as a miner and you can feel me depth. Got me schoolboy outfit. No, but in this, there's quite a bit of that depth thing, like where they're in cars and like it's like you can see the glass and it's through the glass you can feel like how big things are. That's the kind of how I like 3D to be used. Not, but in this, it's a lot of here's a pickaxe to the face, here's a big squirt of blood, here's a hand coming onto the screen, here's an open torso, you can see the heart inside and all that. And they work really well, surprisingly well, actually.
It's definitely
some
my favorite part of the film is the kills and the kind of those kind of effects and things. Because I think they look good and they really go for it. They don't kind of half-arse it or it gets cut or anything. It's like we're going whole hog. So I kind of respect that. But again, I think maybe some of the character stuff was lost, or we don't get enough time to.
There isn't any. There's no character building at all in this. Really, no. It's literally here you go, guys. Look, here's Jensen Ackles, who all you young girls fancy.
Exactly.
There's Smith, who all the girls fancy. There's Jamie King, all the fellas fancy. It was a typical, as I say, 90s style. Let's just stick all the faces in it, who people know. That's enough character building.
Yeah,
and let's stick Tom Atkins in it because everyone loves Tom Atkins.
Exactly. Yeah,
he makes it a horror film. You know what I mean?
And it's all like rushed through. And then because we know, like the writers know and the actors know who the killer's going to be. I think it's telegraphed too obviously as well. Like again, Axel is it's very flimsy. I think a lot of the stuff they're like, oh, he's the killer because he's got loads of chocolate boxes and a Valentine's he got
chocolate boxes.
Yeah, and he's got a very dodgy old house that his dad used to own that he uses for his rendezvous with his
look, there's that photograph he doesn't like of the other two.
Yeah, I was like, those are really flimsy. Like, why the miner? Why would he dress up like Harry Warden? Why would he have all the mining gear if he's never worked
when Megan gets killed, she's pregnant with his child, so he's killed her because he knew she was pregnant.
Yeah. Was she pregnant? I don't know if they said that or they implied it, or I'm not sure.
She said she told him she was pregnant, didn't she?
Oh, right. I must have missed that.
As far as I remember, when they're in that shack.
Oh, okay. Right. No, I don't remember that, but fair play. That would make sense. Yeah. That would make sense.
I think she said something about we've started a family, and that's. Fuck this.
Got it.
Fuck this shit.
So it's like, kill her, but a killer. Don't want any more responsibilities.
So that's 2 deaths.
Yeah.
She gets properly gutted there.
Oh, so. Absolutely, yeah. Be mine forever, isn't it?
In the shittest way possible.
Yeah.
I did 20 minutes to climb out of a window.
Oh, fucking hell. I don't know. I kind of like that bit. I kind of like that sequence because she's like, because in the first one, there's that.
She hits him with a mop. Is a good bit. A mop to the face.
That's it. Bitch. We're going to mop the floor with you. But I like the moment, the supermarket's fine. It's a fine sequence. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think her, them being put together and them, because she knows that her husband Axel is cheating with her. But she still keeps her job, still hires her, still uses her, still talks to her, still, is respectful to her. But when they get into that, she just goes into hysterics. And in the first film, there's Sarah's friend also, once Hollis is dead, goes into absolute hysterics and becomes fucking useless as a person in that. Like they try climbing out of the mine and she's like, no, I'm not going up. And they're like, right, well, I guess we go down and die. Okay, sure. So yeah, it kind of mirrors that. But I like the kind of like Jamie's like holding or Sarah's holding the door and it's shaking, and when it stops, you're like, he's going to be on the other side now, and it's like she's pulling, and then in that way, it's pulling her out, like just as they're like, she's like can't find the right key and she can't do it, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna die.
And then hits the big fucking massive hit this for an alarm button that's right in front of her that she could have just hit at any minute.
And it's specifically like a police alarm, isn't it? It's not like
it's like
bizarre.
Why didn't you just hit that straight away?
Yeah.
Yes. Slasher film theory 101. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to decipher why people are so stupid in slasher films. But with that, I also wanted to talk about your favorite kill as well. Going back to the motel room, we again get the kill of the trucker. The nude former Axel Flame is killed. But before that, you get somebody is pinned. The motel owner, who's played by a little person, is absolutely obliterated. Where she gets again under the chin with the pickaxe and pinned to the ceiling and the light, and all the lights, like all the electrics, go.
What a kill!
Fucking hell, that was intense. And
It's
it's like in one
it's
swing as well. It's not like it's just like straight up there.
she comes in looking for this dog, an annoying little pug dog, and she comes in. I think her name's Celine. The actor's name's Celine too.
Mm,
He just it's fucking ruthless. He just takes this swing like
yeah.
almost like a goal swing, and just picks her up on his axe under the chin,
Yeah.
straight through the head, smashes all the lights in the crappy plastic ceilings, and
Yeah.
it's just a she's stuck in the ceiling like a
Like proper
ceiling decoration.
superhuman strength to get up
Yeah.
there. But yeah.
I think it's one of the most like gruesome kills in it.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
Raw power, which kind of
Absolutely.
doesn't work in when you find out who the killer is.
So there's the dancing around, like there's a moment in the mine where we first see Harry Warden come back, quote unquote Harry Warden, and Jensen Ackles or Tom gets
Sorry, yeah,
locked.
and that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
They basically the police see a photo of that night or the video on the video, a still from the video, and you see him by the window because he's staying in that motel. My question on that was, if his dad owned the mine and has just died, why is he staying in the fucking motel? Wouldn't he have a house in town or somewhere to stay? I didn't quite. I mean, we all know why he was in the hotel.
Yeah,
now, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But why would he be staying in the motel?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But hey, it's a hot film.
But he's like, I guess
I'll let these questions come and go.
Yeah, I guess the idea is that he doesn't want to be around his dad. He doesn't want to talk to his dad. He's distant to his dad. He's like, my dad could have found me at any point if he wanted to.
His dad's dead now.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe it's the memory of it. Again.
And he would have had a massive house to chill out in.
Yeah,
it seems weird.
just sleep in the mine. But the moment where he's in the mine, because
everyone else does.
Again, he's in the mine, going to confront his fear. Harry Warden turns up, kills the guy who had a fight with in the bar, manages to lock him in this cage so he can't get out. And that's his evidence for not being the killer, for not being the miner, because they were like, someone was definitely in there because the other miners found him locked in this cage. So
that's the most brutal kill, I think, as well in this, the most animalistic kind of kill, because he just keeps on spiking him, doesn't he?
Swinging and swinging.
On splatting this fella all like, look at me.
Mm.
Look at you, Damien.
And again, like Axel's got this full-on hatred for him because he's like, oh, he's coming back into town. But again, they were like, oh, you were always jealous of me and Sarah, Axel. And he was like, but they weren't together. Like Axel wasn't even with her, didn't show any interest in her. I think the only line he says is, oh, she's still with that dickhead or loser or something. And that is it. That's literally all they say. And again, because they don't establish that at the beginning, it's kind of like, oh.
It makes no sense why they're married. It makes no sense why he's the sheriff. It makes absolutely no sense how someone who works in a supermarket and a small town sheriff can have a massive house and afford a housekeeper, but they do. There's all kinds of plot points that are slightly odd in this one.
All falling apart. But
why they've got a housekeeper? Oh, just so they can boil her. Like
just so we've got another kill. There we go. We can outdo the amount of kills in the first one.
She has to be a housekeeper, otherwise it doesn't make any sense why she'd be stuck in
the dryer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or they would have needed to establish a laundrette and someone working at the laundrette like Mabel, but that wouldn't have made any sense. Or well, it could have done. Or maybe they could have just had Jamie work at a laundrette and just had the girlfriend, the affair lady, with Axel being the thing. But it doesn't matter either way. But I don't mind the supermarket section anyway. But there's a lot of kind of things where I'm like, it just feels like they're kind of rushing through a lot. You know, it's 10 minutes longer than the original version, but it doesn't feel like it adds very much, really. It's all rushed.
Technically, I think more kills in this one. If you count the hospital, I think there's about 10 people get killed in the hospital bit.
Yeah, all off screen. Off screen to death, but it is very violent and very bloody, but it is a mind-bloody Valentine. It also doesn't feel like the mine is quite an integral part of the thing, even though it is, and it also doesn't feel like Valentine's.
It doesn't feel at all like a mining town.
No.
There's no setup. You don't really see the town. You don't see any of the people in the town.
No.
Like with the way that the original is and the way they go through they basically start in the mine. They're all having a shower thing. They all jump in their cars, drive through the town, so you can see it's like a little township that's reliant on the mine because it's like 5 minutes away from the mine is everything else. Then they're all in and meeting everyone in the town. You see people like, oh, it's Valentine's party time. They're all getting involved and meeting up in the town hall and all that stuff. Whereas in this, it's just like these too cool for school rad teenagers, body whippersnappers, are just hanging out in the mine.
Yeah.
There's no.
You
like
Dawson's Creek
closed.
kids.
Yeah, they're talking about it like, oh, we don't want to close the mine, but it's like the mine's already closed.
And how many kids are actually working at the mine? Like, again, at the start of the film, none of the kids are shown as working in the mine. When we go back to the mine, there's nothing to say that anybody of young adult age is working there.
No, it'll be all their parents, wouldn't it? Even if the 5 or 6 miners who come down when that fella gets taken out, they're all men. They're not. There's no young.
No, they're all big burly blokes, aren't they? Like there's nobody like down that mine. I would think in this large mining town as well, there'd be a few women down the mine as well. Like I would expect there to be at least a couple, 2 or 3 at this point in history. I would imagine there would be some women down that mine working. But there you go. So we as
maybe the women in the town had seen the original and got put off by that girl.
Yeah, they're like, I can't go in the mine because someone's going to put me up against a pickaxe and kill me. They're going to give it to me in the worst possible way. But yeah, I don't know. I think it just gives the twist away too early because of all these things, and because we're focusing on Tom and TJ more, and because they're really going out of their way to make Axel, unlikable. It's too obvious for me. Like, at least the original, again, it had a few other red herrings apart from the main 2 characters. The only red herring in this I can think of is Darwin from X-Men First Class is in this. He plays the deputy, and there's a bit where like Tom's like, "What were you doing at the mine that time when I got attacked?" And he was like, "Do my job, like researching and doing investigative police work." And that's like the only red herring I can really think of that's not the 2 main characters, the 2 protagonists, I guess.
It does telegraph itself.
Yeah,
it's very, very obvious.
Yeah, I think so. And again, because like what I think it should have been is that early opening sequence where Harry is arguing with Tom about him being shit at his job, which leads directly to the explosion. Maybe he did cause the explosion, potentially. It could be implied that way. But he's saying, "I don't like you. You work just because your dad owns the mine doesn't mean you're shit." And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll do my job. I'll do my job." Doesn't do his job. Leads to the accident. I think it should have been Axel and Tom arguing. And then maybe just before the collapse happens, it's caused by at least one of them or both of them. And then that would link a bit better, and you could say that either of them has been traumatized, and then when he comes back and attacks, then they're equally again both traumatized by the same event. So equally, they could both be the killer, and then maybe he goes off and decides to become a sheriff because of that event. He doesn't want anybody else to die. He goes, "I'm going to be the protector of this town," but they don't do that.
No, they don't. There's nothing. They don't tell you anything about the characters. They're all just literally throwaway characters. Every single one of them is cannon fodder. You don't really, and from the beginning to the end, you don't care.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it's particularly that bad as horror remakes go. I just have a lot of kind of issues, and again, we are directly comparing them.
I think as horror remakes go, it's bad. As horror films go, it's good.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
As it's a watchable. If you're comparing the 2, the original is infinitely better than the remake. But with this, it's kind of like they'd written another film and then gone, you know what, let's make a remake of the My Bloody Valentine instead.
Yeah, it's an established name. It's a brand recognition. We can market it easier. So let's just rework a few things.
Because the bits that make the My Bloody Valentine, the miner and all that stuff, just doesn't work in this because it doesn't fit.
No.
It's kind of pointless. There's nothing to say to mine in town. There's nothing to say why the hell anyone's bothered about the mine. And if like it seems to me like if he came back and went, "I'm selling the mine," closing the mine and selling it, everyone would go, "Sound." What's
nice
the point
one.
of being there anyway? Yeah. It's 2009, man. We don't use mines anymore. Fossil fuels. Boo, and all that,
I mean, that could have been interesting. They could have played with that, but they don't. It's just that one guy who comes, the former deputy that's retired, comes in and just punches him because he caused all the problems. And then some people learn that he's selling the mine, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really. Some people just go, "I wish you weren't selling the mine." Cheers, great. That's it. Like, there's nothing else.
It's just not particularly well written for any of it, is it? No. Really.
I'm glad they kept. I'm glad they kept the love triangle aspect, because I think that is quite integral to the original. I think that is what everything is kind of built around.
But it makes no sense in this at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like he goes away, and then it's 10 years later he comes back. She's with someone who she didn't seem to like. It's not like in the original they all got on kind of thing. They were all in the same friend group and all that.
There's chemistry there in that original film. There's no chemistry. Yeah. I think what they were
she literally doesn't like him, and she sees him drive off and leave her then boyfriend for dead.
Also, at the beginning, like they go, I didn't see you for 10 years. We didn't know what happened to you, and I was like, fuck you, Sarah. You literally fucking drove off with Axel, and they're like, I can't believe you abandoned me. I was like, you left him to fucking die in the mine. No wonder he's fucked off. No wonder he's coming back to kill everybody. You abandoned him. It wasn't the other way around. Like, they make out like he's the bad guy. And I was like, she doesn't even say, stop the car, Axel, or no, what about Tom? No. They literally just scream and drive off. He reverses, and Tom's like, what the fuck? Like,
he's looking at Tom as if to say, tough shit, mate.
Yeah, he's like, in a bit, didn't like you anyway. And
I've got your missus.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like them going, well, you caused this, it's your problem, it's your issue. And luckily Tom Atkins comes in. Also, there's this now. The idea apparently for a sequel, because it did pretty well at the box office, so there was talks of a sequel. The writer said that what they were going to do in the sequel was Harry Warden was actually going to return. It's implied, well, it's not implied, it's told that the Tom Atkins and the mayor had committed some vigilante justice, killed him, and buried him outside the mine. And years later, Tom comes back, finds the grave. It's empty, but the outfit is there, the pick is there, the helmet is there, the gas mask is there, but the body is not there. It's gone. So that, again, throughout the film, we're kind of like, well, maybe Harry Warden wasn't dead. Maybe he is alive. Maybe. So we get that aspect still. But I thought that was an interesting thing. But then also we get the idea. So at the end, it's revealed Tom this time is the killer. But it's also kind of implied that he's being possessed by the spirit of Harry and he's seeing him. Yeah. Also, that maybe he's lost his mind.
It's quite nicely done, that end bit, because he's basically saying, "Sarah, behind you, that he's there," and you can see Harry Warden coming towards them. So, like, you kind of like, what's going on, because they're not reacting. Yeah. And then she turns around and goes, "There's nobody there, mate." And so you realise that, and then they start doing all the crappy cutaways of like when he vanishes.
Oh yeah,
he's looking at himself in the mirror, and he's the
yeah. So we see him lock himself into the cage, like he barricades himself. My favorite shot in the entire film is where Tom's got a pickaxe. So it's revealed again, the finale isn't even that interesting in comparison to the original, because it's just a Mexican standoff and Sarah has to choose between which one she thinks is the killer, Axel or Tom. And the only thing that gives it away is Tom says, "Oh, this was the message left on one of these kills." And she's like, "How did you know she was dead? And how did you know that was the message? And how did you know all this?" It's like, "It was on the Valentine's card, be mine forever," And he's like, "Yeah, but how would you know what's inside the Valentine's card? How would you know all of this information?" And then he has like the psychotic break, and as Harry's coming towards them, and Kerr Smith, Axel, is pointing the light at where he's looking, and he's like, "Nothing there, mate." And he's looking at Sarah like, "There's definitely nothing there." And he's just like, "No." And then when he kind of disappears in front of Tom, and then Tom kind of takes on Harry's persona, like it's like a split personality. He becomes Harry. My favorite shot, though, is when he's walking down the mine and he's smashing all the lights with the pickaxe. Yeah. And when he smashes the lights, you see kind of
it changes.
Yeah, it changes into the miner. Like you see a blur image of the miner every time it does it. And I thought that's genius. That's really, really good. But apparently the idea for the sequel that it was going to be Harry Warden was going to return proper. It was definitely going to be Harry Warden, because again, it's implied that they kill him, they go and dig him up, but he's not there, and the outfit isn't there either because Tom's already taken that to wear as the killer. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of ideas they're playing with, but again, none of them really translate. But also, I guess there's they set up a sequel by having Tom survive. They do a bit like The Guest, where he kind of walks out in a disguise right at the end. And yeah, I don't know. I like Jensen Ackles, but I don't think I enjoy his crazy acting in this. I don't know if it works.
No.
Like he's kind of got this weird look. It's just like I'm crazy. I think they were banking on the heartthrobs, like you were saying, that like these guys are in, like these two actors are in Dawson's Creek, so clearly like good-looking guys. Again, I just don't think the script is there for them either. Unfortunately, I don't think it gives them enough to kind of work with or chew on. And you know, we'll talk about the acting when we compare them, but I don't know if that for me. I quite like the idea is when we see him removing the mask as the killer, it's like he can't breathe. I quite like that. I thought that's a nice little detail, that because he's wearing this gas mask, he's like, I've got to breathe again. I can be me again. Like when he takes off the outfit, I thought that was a nice little detail. But on the whole, yeah, I don't know if it worked for me. But I do like the fact that like Axel's like, oh, for fuck's sake, just shoot us both. He's just like, doesn't matter, just shoot us both, Sarah. Fuck it, why not? But yeah,
the shooting at the end is pure made for. It's just done for 3D.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You see the bullet flying through the air and all that stuff.
Yeah, it goes through Tom, and then it hits the gas canister. And I like that it isn't the bullet that sets it off. It's the sparking of the broken light bulbs. So it's kind of a little bit, that aspect is a little bit more realistic, because a bullet wouldn't set off those kind of canisters, because that's just not how physics works. But I like that there's a little bit of science to it. But yeah, apparently that was the idea for the sequel, but again, just didn't get made. Clearly didn't make enough money for a sequel, but it didn't do badly box office wise. But yeah, so that's the end currently, apart from that short film Valentine Bluffs. The end of the franchise. But American Mythology are releasing a comic book which expands the universe of My Bloody Valentine the day this podcast comes out. So if you want to buy that and want to read a very, very short comic book about, I don't know, Harry Warden, whatever it's about, feel free to go and buy it. I'm sure it'll be available digitally and physically. But yeah,
might reopen the want for
the desire, sequels. the need. But Dan,
sequels, who knows?
But Dan, is there anything else you want to say about My Bloody Valentine 3D or 2009 before we compare the two?
Yeah, the 3D was great. It's one of the few films that's like got 3D in the title that actually the 3D made a big difference and was actually good. Some of the kills don't really look that great when you watch it in 2D, but I like Sheriff Bear he's the one who takes it to the chin. It goes through his mouth. His eye doesn't pop out, but he then gets his face, basically he pulls the stick out, so it takes his chin off and his mouth, and that flies towards the screen.
Amazing.
So although that's a bit cheesy, it looks great, and it's like a proper prosthetic mouth and all that stuff, so his gob's hanging off.
No, that was a good kill. I will say in both films, I'll give it, the kills are fucking great in both. I think genuinely really good. But yes, so we've revealed the true killer of the mining community was not Axel, it's not TJ, but it was in fact Margaret Thatcher of all people. Margaret Thatcher, the real destroyer of the mines in the 1980s.
Still causing problems now.
Yeah, absolutely.
From beyond the grave.
Absolutely. So yeah, I don't blame TJ or Axel. I blame Maggie Thatcher for all these senseless deaths and murders, which... There you go. Maggie Thatcher, you're to blame. You're the real enemy of the mining community, not Harry Warden. But as always, Dan, we do have to compare the two. So we have 5 categories: writing, acting, music, cinematography, and direction. So first up is writing. Which film had the better written script?
The first one.
The 1981 original.
1981, because it's more natural. It feels ad-libbed when they're all together, but it's obviously not. And just the story overall, the screenplay was more like cohesive, and it fitted. As I say, the town was a character, the setting was a character, and it all worked. Whereas in the remake, it's just, as I say, it was just generic It was okay. It's 2009, but it was very 90s, like that kind of Dawson's Creek style. It was a Dawson's Creek horror, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It is that kind of.
Everyone's a bit too good looking. I think that's the problem. Like in the original, like all of them got like bad teeth, and you can imagine they've worked down the mine, and the women are beautiful in it as well. I think especially Sarah, I think is stunning in that film. But yeah, it's not something. Yeah, I mean, you've got Tom Atkins in there and some other people, and you've got your old, your old sheriff's deputy, and a few other older characters, but they're not like. Doesn't feel quite as authentic to the idea of the working class.
It feels a bit more like a fan film.
Yeah, I agree.
But a very high budget.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I've not seen
I haven't watched Return to Valentine Bluffs, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the fan film.
But I have the feeling that might be better than the remake.
Possibly. I might watch it after this, actually. I probably should have watched it before, but I might give it a go.
I'm tempted now, actually.
Yeah, I might give it a go. But I have to agree with you, Dan. I think, again, like that whole idea of just literally like the problem with the opening of the first one is it's tell, don't show, and that's what really fucked me off. I was like, yeah, no, it's nice. It looks good with the 3D effects and going in and out of the newspaper and hearing the voiceovers and stuff. And they're trying to get as much information across as possible and get to the film. But also, we don't establish characters, we don't establish feeling, don't establish mood. It's literally like, oh, they're having a party and they're dead. Everyone's dead. Harry Warden's killed everyone. There's nothing. There's no world building. I know there's not much world building to do in My Bloody Valentine, but it was done in the original. It's there. Yeah. It feels natural. Like you said, cohesive is a really good word, I think, to describe the first one. But I think, again, it's the standard slasher formula, but they turn some things on their head, but it does it in a much more, again, cohesive way, a natural way. It doesn't feel forced. And I think a lot of this... The newer one is trashier. It's not as interesting. It's not as emotionally deep. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's clearly influenced by other slasher movies. I think the My Bloody Valentine remake, and I think probably for the worst for it. I think
it's a bit try hard.
Absolutely. So next up, Dan, is acting. Now this is a tough one for me. I think. Because I think the acting in both is not amazing. I'll be honest.
I think. Do you know what? I want to say the acting in the first one again is better because in the remake they should know better.
Yeah. Again,
at least in the 80s, that was the acting in all horror films.
True.
Whereas when you've got like mainstream, in inverted commas, actors in the new one, and they're almost trying to act like, it was almost that thing of, it's a horror film. It's beneath me kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I did feel like this is a paycheck for some of the actors. It was just like, it's not something that, like, also when I watched the Blu-ray, like, there's no special features really. There's a making of documentary that's about 5 minutes long because they were like, and they say all this, they talk about all this stuff. They're like, it's changing. There's a real feminist character vibe to this film. And I was like, everything you're saying, I think the opposite of. So clearly you've done the bad job. Like everything
the best acted scene in it from everyone involved is the nude.
Yeah.
I agree. The trucker scene, that whole thing. So the owner of the motel is great. The dog is amazing.
Lewis, I think it was. Yeah.
Hits its marks every time. Amazing. She acts the nude out. She acts the clothes off it. Yeah. Even though she's nude. As I say, it's not like, you almost don't notice she's nude. She's just like this badass girl going, what are you doing? Like going out to like, the camera as well doesn't linger or zoom in or make or like, it's not a dirty, creepy camera work either. It's just like she just happens to be nude. Yeah. And that kill's really effective as well. Just takes him right out through the top of the head, bong, and then a nice big squirt of blood straight into the camera. 3D.
Yeah. All that. And she's behind the bed frame. I like that.
Yeah, all those kills are great. And that bed frame thing harks back to him in the cage as well.
Yeah, that's really good.
There's a few, but I think that's like kind of when there's characters, side characters are the kind of the better characters in the film. You've got to says a lot, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I
But
have
the
to
acting
agree
isn't
with you.
great in either of them. But
No,
I think the
no.
first one you can give it a bit more
Yeah,
leeway due to the
and
age of it.
again, yeah, the age and the budget and what they were doing, and to be fair, like they're going down into a real mine for like long periods of time, and they could be blown up by methane at any point. The
Well, let's say,
fact.
and what we said originally, we cared about those characters, so they had to be given good performances.
Mm,
Otherwise, you wouldn't, because you just think,
exactly.
"Oh my god, what's that?" You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's terrible
And
acting.
I think that's the main issue is that they establish characters in the first one, they don't establish the characters in the second one. So why should I fucking care? So all this kind of again the kind of romance thing works in the first one, but in this one, in the second one, in the remake, doesn't for me. I don't particularly care for Sarah, Care's character, Care Smith's character, or Axel, or Sarah, or Tom. I just don't because
No,
I've not given anything to make me because again we're like this happened now 10 years. What's happened in that
yeah,
10 years? Oh, Tom's been in a mental institution, has he? Do we know that for sure? Who cares? Do I care? Just get on with it. Crack the fuck on. Let's get this over with. But no, I'm with you. I think because the chemistry is so good, I kind of overlook the acting in the first one because it feels genuine, it feels real, and those moments that are really emotionally heavy and intense, and it's about the love triangle. I buy the horror and the worry that on with Sheriff Newby. Sheriff Newby as well, if you didn't know, he is the voice of Sabretooth in the animated X-Men series
uh,
from the 90s. Yeah, and his daughter is a huge voice actor as well. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's brilliant as well. I love her work in like Rugrats and Drawn Together and everything. You'll know her if you hear her, but I just can't think of her name right now. But yeah, I buy it. I buy Mabel. I buy all the characters to a degree, but I think again that's a lot of that is down to the writing and the structure of the film that helps us do that. And I think the structure and the writing lets down the new one. So yeah,
indeed.
again, another point to the original. Oh, it looks like we've got a favorite, Dan. I don't know.
You never
Music.
know.
You
It's
never
all
know.
to
It could
play for.
could happen. Could happen. Could go either way. This will be the one. Music, Dan. Music. Which film has the better music?
Well, I can't really remember the music in the second one, but I can remember the music in the first. Ding 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 ding.
Even when it's
Maybe not for the
completely.
right reasons.
But also I like the kind of more like dong dong like
Yeah.
the sinister themes are
Better,
really good.
proper score in the first one.
Yeah.
But again, there had to be then, didn't there?
And then we get the wonderful, again, I've said it before, Ballad of Harry
The
Warden,
ballad. Yeah.
which I really, really like.
We
So,
need to get that to number one.
number one, get it on the polls, guys, get it on the polls. But yeah, or no, just listen to this podcast. It's going to be at the end of the podcast. Just listen, get me up on the polls. That's what I want. Get
Yeah,
me on the
indeed.
charts. So yeah, we have. I'm going to give it to that based on that alone. I'm with you. I can't remember a single song or track or score, piece of music in that new one whatsoever. Couldn't tell you. So
I
yeah.
barely remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Next up is cinematography.
The first one we've already mentioned.
Yeah, we have.
It's next level. The new one's very digital. As I say, the new one's very 90s,
Yeah.
like MTV video style. You know, when
Yeah.
grunge was cool.
It's the Michael
It felt
Bay.
like that.
It's those Platinum Dunes, Michael Bay type slasher films, which I think Friday the 13th was a Platinum Dunes remake, I think, which was he bought all the rights. He did the Texas Chainsaw remake, he did the Friday the 13th remake, but decided never to do any sequels really to them, apart from Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which was prequel anyway. But apart
I
from
think
that,
this was the biggest. Like the thing with the new one though is you've got to give it for obviously they were shooting in 3D.
yeah, I'll give it that.
So, and the 3D is good. So I suppose you've got to shoot it differently for that, haven't you?
You know what I would have done? You know what I would have done with marketing the 3D element? I would have shaped the 3 and the D into a heart. Yeah, because you can have a 3. You can have a 3 for the arc at the top, and then you could make the D into a heart. That's what I would have done, but they didn't. That's how poor the marketing team was on this. They were like, "It's my bloody Valentine. People are going to fucking watch anyway." But that's what I would have done. I would have twisted it on its side and turned it into a
3D. Or just
3
not
and a
put
D.
3D in it and then
Just have the heart.
When you got to it, went, why is this got loads of stuff coming towards the screen?
Like, why? But that's what I would have done. But yeah, so cinematography. I think like some of those shots where like we see Harry Warden in the distance, and there's mist, and they're walking through the quiet town, and then there's some lovely sweeping shots of like just the coast, like the Nova Scotian coast and things. So it's gorgeous, and again, feels like a town because it was a real town. It was a real mine. Like it feels authentic to what it is, and you can't even hide the Canadian accents in it, you can't even hide that fact, they're like, we didn't know where you were, and I don't know what this is about, and and all this, and Axel,
and nicely shot kills as well.
Yeah.
Even the kills were nicely framed.
They were absolutely. I 100% agree with you there. And finally, the direction. What's it going to be? Is it going to be a full sweep for the original?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
this is a hard one because I think I've got to give it to the remake for the fact that he directed himself into the longest nude scene ever. No, it's the first one.
Yeah.
It's a clean sweep for the first one. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm not going to say they shouldn't have touched it because, as I say, as a horror film, the remake stands up as a horror film, and as
Sure.
a 3D horror film, it's the best one I think that is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, maybe Piranha 3DD.
Oh yeah,
was
that
up
might
there.
take the cake for me.
But like as a remake, it's not. But I think that it's a shame it hasn't become something more, because as a killer, he's fantastic. And I think if they'd made the remake a bit better, maybe, and not bothered with the 3D, which was the fad at the time, wasn't it? Unfortunately, it might have been a different story now. We'd probably have a franchise that we'd all be sick of, like Halloween.
Right. But yeah, so absolute clean sweep, smashed it. So in the first original film versus remake, absolutely the original is best. The remake is not. So I guess that's maybe stereotypical, and that was maybe the obvious way it was going to go. I don't know.
Neither of them are bad films, and neither of them are good films.
Yeah, they are
Bad
films.
The first one is the best.
Yeah, so they're fine. They're fine. They're not gonna win any awards. They're not gonna smash anything. But if you're looking
I think they're
for
both actually good versions of that era's horror.
yes, yeah,
They're
good
both
examples.
really good.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a decent horror film from either of those two eras, you're not going to watch either of them and go, "Oh, that was shit." They're both decent. You know what I mean?
Like, I got enjoyment out of both. Like, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I got enjoyment out of both, and you can say they're not particularly good, they're not particularly bad, but they're somewhere in between. But they are both enjoyable. I will say that I did have a lot of fun going through this, and again talking about it as well with you. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Dan. I think they are fine. Are they going to win your heart over? Maybe not.
No.
But
I daren't let them.
But I would
ends up in a box of Chuckies.
But I'd hardly give them the shaft either. So there we have it. So no love lost between either of those films, I think.
I'm just glad you've got all these terrible puns out the way, and I never had to. So,
you never have to bother. Don't worry. I'm sure there'll be a few more puns in the social media posts I make. But we do have one extremely long listener comment. So my boss, Derek Esoteric, music you can find at my website as well, links to his music. He sent me 2 huge emails. Luckily, because we don't have any other comments, I can read them in full. So here we go, Derek. Oh, Dan. This was my Saturday morning viewing today. Don't really know where to start, so on the assumption that this must have won multiple Academy Awards, I'll suggest my own. The Derricks, if you will. So Derek is only talking about the original film here. The award for Most Canadian Film goes to My Bloody Valentine. TJ's accent is so Canadian, it's virtually Scottish. I think they're in Nova Scotia, which is fair enough. The next award is Most Rubbish Train Carriage Rooftop Chase. This goes to My Bloody Valentine. In the chase at the end, why didn't the miner, or indeed TJ and Sarah, simply jump off the little carriage thingies and run alongside the track?
Good point, well made.
Very good point. Thank you, Derek. Most chilling line from a town mayor goes to My Bloody Valentine for the heart in the chocolate box scene. Oh no, it's happening again. Just in case by this stage we hadn't realised something terrible had happened 20 years ago. Best exit stage left in an angry huff. goes to My Bloody Valentine for Axel's grabbing and opening in one swift action a beer can while storming out of the party. It was quite impressive, actually.
The Canadian way of doing it.
The most horrifying jump scare scene goes to My Bloody Valentine for the gut-wrenching terror of Dave showing Sylvia his condom accompanied by his horrible toothy grin. That's another thing, like, safe sex wasn't really promoted in films or talked about in films,
No.
and there is quite, and they zoom in, they're like, make sure they see the condom, they're like, condom? And that's the funny thing is she's like, oh, are you gonna go get one? And he's like, oh, don't worry, I've already got one. And she's like, no, I meant a beer. Give me a beer. I was like, these people are alcoholics, definitely. Derek ends that email going, saying that this film was dreadful. I loved it. And then he says, P.S. Don't tell me I was supposed to watch the 2009 remake as well. And I went, both, in fact. And he went, oh my, stand by. And then he comes back and says, My Bloody Valentine 2009. So many questions. If Tom turned into Harry, which is, I think, what happened, where was Dick? So which one's Dick?
Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Oh, of course. Silly me.
So, come on, you should have got that with you.
Jesus, all my terrible puns. I didn't get that one. Jesus. The town has changed. Shouldn't the film have been called My Bloody Harmony?
No, wouldn't work.
Nah, probably not. Why did Axel's dad's old house...
That could be his next song, though.
Yeah, my Bloody Harmony.
Get the next one.
Once upon a time in an old mining town
He should
My Bloody
mix.
Harmony.
He could mix it.
Yeah, there you go. This is it, Derek. This is your option. You can do a remix of the Ballad of Harry Warden. That's what we want to hear. Pull the podcast,
The Ballad of
sample
Dan
the
and
podcast.
Harry, you need to call it.
Tom, Dan, and Harry. But yeah, this is your opportunity, Derek. Use My Bloody Valentine, Harry Warden, the Ballad of Harry Warden, and do a new remix of it. So he said, why did her dad's old house have a cupboard full of heart-shaped chocolate boxes if the miner was, in fact, Tom? So Tom plants those, Derek. So you might have missed that, but Tom, it implies that he's planted all the evidence in order to frame Axel as the killer, which he wasn't. He also says, why is Sarah's choice in men so bad? Fair point.
2000s.
2000. Yeah, to be fair, my choice of women wasn't great either at that point. So that's fair. That's fair. And that's why I'm alone this Valentine's yet again. In this one, they didn't have a Valentine's party. So what was the miner's problem?
I don't know. He had to pick something, didn't he?
Hey,
God, that's to do one at least.
That's good. You gotta have one. You gotta have one mining or Valentine's themed pun. Anyway, here's my verdict. So this is Derek's choice. Clearly, the script, soundtrack, cinematography, and acting, all of that were better in the remake than the original. Clearly, as well, they twisted the twist, as it were, to wrong for any original viewers. This time, Axel wasn't the miner. It was indeed Tom. All that said, I enjoyed the first one more. So bad it was good. Plus, the catering was better. Boiled heart with your hot dog, anyone? Excellent. Thank you, Derek. So that's it, Dan. Thank you again for spending Valentine's with me and opening your heart to the podcast world, much like all the other characters in these films. As always, where can we find you on the social medias? What are you up to?
At Dan's Photo on Instagram, at Pix2Pixels on Instagram as well, which is a blog I'm doing as well, which is pix2pixels.co.uk, where I basically review films. That's it, really. I don't do Facebook anymore.
Fair enough.
Because it's the devil.
The devil. Are you still on Twitter, are you? Or X?
Yeah, the same. At Dan's Photo 1, at Pix2Pixels on there as well.
No worries. You can find me again at spiderdanandsecretboars.com, and don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle when you interact with us. Please subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter, where you can find out what myself, Comics in Motion, all the other related podcasts are up to week by week. And I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon, I am Jack's Musings, Simon Cotton, Paul Mellon, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Tony Farina, Math, Scott Hodgson, Ria Carrigan, and a new patron, Sarah Coyne, who was just on our Candyman podcast. Thank you again for joining. And yes, we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. And thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. Thanks again, Dan. You've been wonderful, and I'm sure we'll do some weird and wacky films very, very soon once again. But thank you.
Thank you once again for the rose.
Every rose has its thorns. And to take us out, of course, we have the wonderful Ballad of Harry Warden. So I hope you guys stick around and listen to what I think is quite a good song.
Once upon a time, on a sad Valentine, in a place known as Mine, a legend began. Every woman and man would always remember the time, and those who remained were never the same. You could see the fear in their eyes. Once every year, as the 14th draws near, there's a hush all over the town. For the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on and on, and no one will know, as the years come and go, of the horror from long time ago. 20 years came and went, and everyone spent the 14th in quiet regret. And those still alive know the secret survives in the darkness that looms in the night. For the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know, as the years come and go, of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. For the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know, as the years come and go, of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know, as the years come and go, of the horror from long time ago.